He is taking a position that people who are here who are not United States citizens should not suffer a more severe penalty by virtue of the fact that they're not U.S. citizens. And that's what happens in a lot of these criminal prosecutions against the immigrant population.
The new district attorney in Manhattan ran on a platform of criminal justice reform, seems to be making some changes. The question is, how could those changes be affecting non-citizens who are having immigration issues? We're going to find out right now on this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest is New York City attorney Cory Forman. I'll remind you right off the top, if you want to ask Cory questions about your situation, it's easy. Go to askthelawyer.com. Click the button up at the top that says Ask a Lawyer. It'll walk you right through the very simple process. Or you can simply call the phone number that you'll see on the screen during our conversation. Cory, good to see you as always. Thank you for making some time.
Thanks so much for having me, Rob. Good to be here.
So Manhattan has this new district attorney. He seems to be changing things up already. Tell me about some of the general policy changes that he's put into effect.
Well, DA Bragg, he ran on a platform of reform. He ran on the acknowledging that despite what the intentions are, the system does unfairly prosecute brown skin and minority populations, and he's looking to rectify that by taking a more rehabilitative approach to the criminal justice system. There are certain prosecutions that are not going to be prosecuted as aggressively. In my career as a public defender, it was amazing how many really low-level crimes were bumped up to felonies for no other reason than to pressure defendants to plead guilty. This did have a disproportionate effect on minority populations, and he's looking to make it more of an equitable system. He's looking to do away with over-aggressive prosecutions on felony bump-ups for cases that aren't worth it. And he's getting a lot of heat. He's definitely getting a lot of heat from some of the more conservative media and politicians. It remains to be seen what the effect is going to be. But, for instance, he's not every high-level misdemeanor needs to also be a felony, which he's looking to instruct his assigned ADAs to really ascertain the facts of the case and prosecute it as the facts of the crime see fit, and not bump it up strictly for a negotiating position with defendants.
I don't know anybody, Cory, who's more plugged in with criminal and immigration than you are. So, in your opinion, how is this going to affect non-citizens and maybe having immigration issues?
Well, it is going to affect non-citizens tremendously because, let's face it, the reality is most of the non-citizens in America, in New York, come from Latin American countries. I mean, there's big populations from all over the world.
Right.
Eastern Europe, that's not to take away from them as well and the contributions they make. But a lot of the criminal prosecutions of non-citizens are against people from South America, Latin America, Mexico, Dominican Republic. We see it all the time. And there is a inherently, racist bent to it. I'm just going to say it. Also, with the immigration population being what that most of them come from in their backgrounds, there's going to be severe immigration consequences to a lot of those prosecutions. DA Bragg recognizes that. He has addressed that in statements he's made, in policy memos. He is taking a position that people who are here who are not United States citizens should not suffer a more severe penalty by virtue of the fact that they're not U.S. citizens. And that's what happens in a lot of these criminal prosecutions against the immigrant population. And I'm confident that we're going to see more reasonable district attorney offers, more reasonable plea bargaining situations to help immigrants get out of the immigration consequence of whatever criminal prosecution is coming at them. For instance, a lot of low-level drug crimes. I'm confident we're going to see more negotiations to alternative offenses that don't have the same immigration consequence that, say, a cocaine possession has. Those are severe consequences in the immigration world, where a U.S. citizen would pay a fine on a first offense. A non-citizen could face lifetime banishment from the United States. That's not the intent of the statute, and it wasn't looking to prosecute immigrants more extensively. And the DA recognizes that, and I commend him for trying to implement policies that rectify that horrible inequity.
So it would seem to me, and I certainly am, am not well versed in all of this, but that seems to affect people who are in the system and maybe waiting for answers. What about people who've already gotten answers and might want to appeal, Cory? Do you think this will affect any of that?
Well, sure. I mean, as you know, at Cohen, Forman, Barone, we do a lot of post-conviction relief work. A lot of it is related to non-citizens, people who find themselves, unable to apply for adjustment of status, unable to apply for a green card, unable to apply for citizenship, sponsor their family members because of low-level crimes from years and years and years ago. So we take a lot of post-conviction motions to try to get those convictions vacated. I think what we're going to see now is a more willing partner, for lack of a better term, in the district attorney's office. While they are on the opposite side, my hope is that they are going to see that being a prosecutor is only one of the many hats that an assistant district attorney wears, and they are going to have a responsibility and be willing to work with us in vacating those convictions, either for outright dismissal or, in a sense, reworking an old plea and having someone replead to something that doesn't have that same consequence. That, coupled with some of the new laws in New York on post-conviction motions, especially for misdemeanors, makes it a much friendlier environment for non-citizens to seek vacating their convictions.
Is it safe, Cory, to say that there's a log jam in the system right now? And do you think that this could help speed up the process maybe and clear up that log jam?
Well, defense attorneys are often blamed, unfairly so, for creating log jams and delaying. But the reality of the situation was, if prosecution weren't so overly aggressive and if offers weren't so ridiculously unfair, there would be no reason to delay. We could expedite the plea bargaining process for cases that do plea bargain. So I think in that sense, yes, I do think there's going to be more efficient plea bargaining and cases will be disposed of. At the same time, you're probably going to have people, rightfully so, seeking relief where once it was unavailable to them, to have a more friendly, because now they do have a more friendly partner. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, while there is a logjam and delay, justice is justice. And if someone has been unjustly penalized, for their entire life because of a mistake they made, 20, 30 years ago, but for that mistake, they could live legally and productively in the United States, they should have an opportunity to do that.
So what's your advice then for non-citizens who hear about these changes and want to know whether this could help them and help their situations?
Obviously contact a lawyer. Here at Cohen, Forman, Barone, we do have the advantage of being one of the very few that specialize in both the criminal and immigration context. So in having that knowledge in both areas is a nuance that we bring to the table in analyzing cases, analyzes chances for success, and how you approach a district attorney or a prosecutor in New York State in terms of trying to rectify that wrong. But obviously, definitely speak to an attorney who has a grasp of both of these issues and then able to navigate someone's situation successfully.
Lots of really good information. It's fascinating too. Thank you so much for making some time to answer our questions, Cory.
All right. Thanks so much, Rob.
That's going to be all for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been New York City Attorney Cory Forman. I remind you again, if you want to contact Cory about your situation, go to askthelawyer.com. Click on the button at the top that says Ask a Lawyer. It'll walk you right through the process. Or, of course, you can call the phone number that was on the screen during our conversation. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal for Ask the Lawyers.